Christmas, Osiris Frost here. Today I wanted to switch it up a little bit and come back to a topic I covered in an older video. It's been almost 1 year since this channel began, and back then one of the first videos I created was on the subject of organizations in Star Citizen. In a way, this topic is more timely now than it was when I originally raised it. And I say that because server meshing is now the final technical hurdle to clear before Star Citizen can be fully realized. Obviously, I understand that there's a lot missing from this game in terms of content and polish, and that will come with time, but combining the verse into a single shard will bring the entire community together in what has essentially been a single player experience so far. With this, we'll finally have the full shape of the vision we were promised all those years ago, and it'll just be a matter of time until the details are sketched in. To date, we've gotten slow progress on group systems in Star Citizen, but last week's Calling All Devs finally let us in on the fact that mission sharing is coming sooner rather than later. As we draw closer and closer to the finish line, we can count on more attention being paid to multiplayer systems and organization tools. Several people have asked me about joining this org or that org, but up to this point I haven't recognized much reason to be in an org. It hasn't provided any additional functionality beyond what Discord offers, and it isn't even relevant to populating your friends list. I expect we're going to begin seeing that change in 2019. The fact that organizations have heretofore been glorified networking opportunities has minimized the advantage to committing to one over another. And oftentimes these organizations come with their own set of baggage. Maybe you've been in an org with a cliquish political landscape or a hierarchical structure that is based on levels of activity in a pre-alpha environment. To each their own, but all of this sums up why, while I have joined multiple communities in Star Citizen and there have been others I've strongly considered becoming part of, my presence in each of them has thus far been kind of tentative. And let me be real clear that this isn't a criticism of anyone in any of those orgs. I've met lots of really cool folks I'm looking forward to crossing paths with in the verse someday. I guess what I'm trying to say is I just haven't found home yet. And home in this context is a little bit tricky to define precisely. It's kind of a, I can't explain it to you, but I'll know it when I see it situation. And all of those things I mentioned are a part of that, but also there's more. For example, I'm very particular about how the leadership of an organization views its relationship with those whom they lead. No doubt this is because of my years in the Army, in which I frequently dealt with incompetent and arbitrary nonsense from people in positions of leadership whose sole reason for being in those positions was that they signed up first. However, I've come to view leadership as a function of customer service, in which the customers are the junior members of your organization, and the metric by which your service to them is judged is, have you done your best to place those members in a position to succeed? What is success, you ask? In a video game, I'd say it has mostly to do with, is everyone having fun? Are people receiving opportunities to participate and contribute according to their interests and abilities? Because the fact of the matter is, people generally want to be associated with winners. And if they feel like they have contributions to make to your organization that can help it grow and succeed, you should put them in the best possible place to make those contributions. If you don't, you're creating conflict with people who are supposed to be on your team, which obviously is not good. Perhaps they'll move along and find somewhere else where their input will be valued, and you'll both miss out because the potential for a great relationship was there all along. If you've had much experience with online games, you've probably been part of an org, or at least heard of one that was run like a job, where the officers were in charge, and the junior members were expected to follow orders. No ifs, ands, or buts. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't a time and a place for hierarchy and discipline, for example, if you're in the middle of a combat operation, but outside of these specific instances, there should be some mechanism in place to allow everyone to participate in bettering the team. People should feel like they have someone to discuss their ideas with who will give them a fair hearing, and maybe even give them a crack at being in charge of an operation. That's something that shouldn't be tied absolutely to someone's rank in an org, but very frequently it is. Another dimension to the situation is that if you peruse the organizations section of the RSI website, too many of these orgs are either too focused or too unfocused. What do you mean, Frost? I mean, either you can do anything in this org and you end up with 1 million members who don't have any common reason for being there. Maybe one guy's a pirate and another is a bounty hunter, so what, are these guys supposed to look the other way when they're around each other? It's just too much. An organization has to have some kind of integrity to hold the thing together. On the other end of the spectrum is if you're putting all your eggs in one basket, say, for example, cargo hauling, and it turns out that cargo hauling is boring as shit in Star Citizen, and now everyone is suddenly hit with the same thought and wondering why they're all tied together in a group dedicated to doing something that just isn't fun. Here, I think a Goldilocks approach is called for. You should flavor your org just right to cater to a variety of related gameplay avenues, and that way there is some crossover opportunity to where if, say, you have an escort division in your cargo hauling org, and the transportation piece doesn't end up meeting your expectations, then you can just laterally transfer over to escort and maybe get more out of the game without having to say goodbye to all of the friends you made in that org. My point is, it's just too early to know how any of these professions are going to shake out, and if your org is activity-focused rather than member-focused, then you're exposed to these types of eventualities. But at the end of the day, success or failure of an organization comes down to player experience. Does the average player in your org have a compelling reason to keep coming back to your organization when there are thousands of other orgs competing for members? Are you engaging with your players, or putting up walls between the ranks? Are you offering them interesting and rewarding gameplay opportunities, or are you assigning them duties that they may come to resent over time? Do they feel like valued members of a community or a cog in a machine? These are the sorts of questions that leaders should be constantly asking and re-asking themselves. And you shouldn't be having thoughts like, oh good, Jimmy just logged in, I'm going to make him man a turret on my hammerhead again so I can parade around the verse and show everybody what a badass org leader I am. Earlier I said that I can't explain it to you, but I know it when I see it, and I realized that I then proceeded to explain it to you. These things that I've been talking about are sort of the skeleton that holds the organization together. What I've left out is everything that grows on that skeleton, because like people, organizations are similarly structured, can vary considerably on the outside. There are a million intangible and subjective little things that can build a community over time, from the personalities within it to the inside jokes and all the rest. They give it a unique and memorable flavor, and partially that's what I meant when I said I'd know it when I saw it. But it's my personal feeling that without the right structure in place, the opportunity for that sort of growth is greatly diminished. It's on account of all these considerations that I have elected to create my own organization, dedicated to my own vision of leadership and being about recruiting those who see value in that sort of structure. Aha! I knew this was a roundabout way of you advertising your own org. Maybe. But insofar as I had any agenda today, it was to share with you my thoughts on orgs in general, so that at least if you were starting to think about which one to join, or if you were suffering in silence in a situation that wasn't quite fun for you, you'd know that there were alternative schools of thought to rigid hierarchies, and also that it wasn't necessary to get in on the ground floor, so to speak, in order to have a rewarding organization experience. Beyond that, I'll say that I'm going to link to my org in the show notes below if you have any interest in checking it out, but if you don't care, then you don't need to spend time thinking about it going forward. I certainly am not making this channel the PR wing of my org. So that about does it for today's episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what makes orgs successful or not. What sorts of things have you seen? The good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to hear it all. What have been your insights throughout your history in online gaming, and what is your approach to finding your community in Star Citizen? Until next time, I've been Osiris Frost. Thanks for watching. That's all for today's show. Thanks for watching. If you're new to Star Citizen, or you know someone who's thinking of playing, you or they can earn 5,000 UEC on your account by registering with my referral code, which you can find in the show notes down below. If you have any questions, feedback, or episode suggestions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And if you haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.